right, today we are going to look at an equation of a circle. So for an equation of a circle, there's a formula we're going to use every time. And that formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. We will use this every time. All we need for this are two things. Number one is we need the center, so the dot that's in the middle, and we need that point. That's the h and k. So here when you see this h and this k, we're just looking at the center of the circle. And then the other part that we need is the radius, or r. And that tells us how far it is from the middle to the edge. Those are the only things we need for this. So here are some examples of how this would work. So if we look at number one, it says write an equation for the circle with a center of 8, -3 and a radius of 6. So we'll start and we'll have our x minus blank squared plus y minus blank squared equals blank squared. So how we'll do this is for our x, we will take the x. So here our x is 8. So in this first blank, I'm going to put 8. Then with the y, I want to put my y, which here is -3. So I'll put -3. And then lastly, I want my radius, and our radius here is 6. So at the end, I'll put 6. So there's a couple things we'll change to get our final answer. Number one is if you have minus a negative, oh, you can't see that anymore. If you have minus a negative, we're going to change that to where it will end up being plus. So I would have x minus 8 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals, and then I want to do 6 squared. So 6 squared means I'm going to do 6 times 6, which would give me an answer of 36. And that is the final answer. All right, let's look at number 2. Write an equation for the circle with a center of 3, 6 and a radius of 3. So when I go to write this, I want x minus my x value, which is 3 here, squared, plus y minus my y value, which is 6, squared, equals my radius squared. So r squared is going to be 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which gets us 9. So it equals 9. And that's all. Here there's no minus and negative, so we are good to be finished. All right, we've got 2 more like this, and then we're going to look at some pictures. So on this next one, write an equation for a circle with a radius of 5 and a center of 0, -3. So when I go to write, I'm going to have x minus my x value, which is 0, squared, plus y minus my y, which is -3, squared, equals my radius squared. So our radius squared would be 5 squared, which means 5 times 5, which is 25. So a couple things we'll fix here. Again, we've got that minus negative, so we want to change it to a plus. And then if you have minus 0, we do not have to write that. So for our final answer, we can write x squared, because we do not need minus 0, plus y plus 3, because we have this minus negative squared, equals 25. And that is our final answer. All right, we've got one more. Write an equation of a circle with a radius of 1 and a center of negative 3, 4. So when I go, I can write x. It's going to be minus negative 3. So if you want, we could just start with plus 3 squared plus y minus, my y is 4 squared, equals our radius squared is going to be 1 squared, which means 1 times 1, which is an answer of 1. And that is our final answer. All right, let's look at a couple graphs and then you'll have practice. So here we have the graph and we need to write the equation. So two things we need are the center and the radius. So for our center, we want a point, which is this point here. So I'm going to count backwards, negative 1, and then up 1, 2, 3. So that point is a negative 1, 3. And then I want to know how far it is from the center all the way to the edge. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my radius is 5. So for my equation, I'll have x. My x is negative 1, so I want plus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals r squared, 5 squared. 5 squared is 25. All right, number 2, for the center, we go over 1, down 1, 2. So for our center, we've got 1, 2. And then for the radius, I want from the center to the edge. So that's 1, 2. So for my equation, I would have x minus 1, my x is 1, squared, plus y minus 2, my y is 2, squared, equals r squared is 2 squared, and 2 squared is 4. So with the picture, you just find what is the center and what is the radius. All right, and lastly is if you have to draw the circle. So how to draw our circle is we're going to pull out our points. So here we've got plus 3 and nothing. So here, this means this is x minus negative 3 and y minus 0. So the point that we want is negative 3, 0. So for the center, I want negative 3, 0. So I'm going to go back, 1, 2, 3, up 0. And then my radius, our radius squared is 16. So that means for the radius, we want the square root of 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So from my center, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot, over 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot, down 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot, over 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot. And then I can connect them and kind of make a circle. All right, let's look at this last one here. Here we've got x minus 2 and y plus 3, which means y minus negative 3. So for the center, I want 2, negative 3. And then for the radius, it says r squared equals 25. So for the radius, I want the square root of 25. The square root of 25 is 5. So I'm going to start with the center. I'm going to go over 1, 2, down 1, 2, 3. Here is my center. And then I'm going to go up 5, 3, 4, 5, down 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 5, and over 5, 4, 5. Is that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then connect my dots to make a circle, kind of. It's not perfect. Okay? I know the end was kind of fast, especially with the drawing the pictures. Drawing it is not as important as the first examples of how to write the equation. But if you need help, please let me know. You've got a practice with a quizzes and a class kick. So if you need help, please ask. Otherwise, go ahead and start the practice.